All right, let's dive into an idea that is seriously going to change the way you think about language. It turns out that a lot of the words we use every single day, well, they aren't just for talking about the world, they're actually for changing it.
So let me just ask you this right off the bat. What do you think the main job of language is? I mean, if you're like most people, you'd probably say something like to describe stuff, to state facts, to say things that are either true or false. But is that really the whole story?
For a long, long time in philosophy, the answer to that question seemed totally obvious. The thinking was that the only sentences that really mattered were the ones that described reality. This idea has a name, and it's this big myth that we've got to bust open first.
It's called the descriptive fallacy. Basically, it's the belief that language's number one job is just to make statements that we can check. The sky is blue. That's true. The sky is green. That's false. Simple, right? But that whole way of thinking misses this massive part of what we're actually doing with words every single day.
I mean, just think about these phrases for a second. If I say, I promise I'll call you tomorrow, is that statement true or false in the moment I say it? It doesn't really fit, does it? The words aren't describing a promise. They are the promise. Saying I apologize isn't a report on an apology. It is the apology itself. We're not just describing an action, we are performing one.
So, this exact puzzle is what led to the big reveal. A philosopher named J.L. Austin came along, saw this gap, and gave this whole phenomenon a name. And in doing so, he pretty much turned our understanding of language on its head. He called them performative utterances. A performative is a piece of language where the saying of the words is the doing of the action. The words themselves are the deed. This is a huge shift, right? We're moving from language that just describes the world to language that actually acts in the world. Think about these two tiny words, I do. When they're said in the right place, at the right time, to the right person, that phrase doesn't just describe a marriage. It literally creates it. It's the very action that makes the marriage real.
And it's the exact same idea at work when someone's christening a ship. When the official smashes the champagne bottle and says these words, they are not reporting a fact. They are performing the official act of naming that ship. A moment before those words were said, the ship didn't have a name. A moment after, it does. The words did all the work.
And this applies to all sorts of things we say all the time. The act of apologizing, for example, is done simply by saying the words with sincerity. You're not describing an apology, you're actually issuing one. It's an action, plain and simple.
But, and this is a big but, it's not a total free-for-all. You can't just say anything anywhere and expect it to magically work. For these word actions to actually be successful, they have to follow a specific set of rules. Austin called them felicity conditions, but an easier way to think about them is just the rules of the game.
Okay, so for one of these performatives to actually work, 3 things have to be in place. First, there has to be some kind of accepted convention already out there, like the legal and social institution of marriage. Second, the people and the circumstances have to be right. You need 2 eligible people and an authorized officiant, not just 2 friends joking around in a coffee shop. And third, you have to do it right. You have to actually say, I do, not something like, yeah, I guess. If any of those things fail, the whole act fails.
So what happens when we break these rules? Well, Austin gave us 2 really useful ways to think about how these word actions can fail. He called them misfires and abuses.
Now, the difference between these 2 is really important. A misfire is when the act is just void. It doesn't happen at all because the procedure itself didn't work. Like if you say, I divorce you in a country where that has 0 legal standing, nothing happens. You're still married. But in abuse, that's different. The act does happen, but it's flawed because the speaker isn't being sincere. If you say, I promise, but you have absolutely no intention of following through, you have still technically made a promise. It's just an insincere one, an abused one. And, of course, there are other ways these things can go wrong. I mean, if someone is forced to say, I promise, at gunpoint, we wouldn't consider that a real promise, would we? And when actors on a stage get married every night for a play, they aren't actually getting married over and over again. The context changes everything.
Okay, so we've got these 2 pretty neat categories, right? We have performatives, which do things, and we have descriptive statements, which just say things. But now, I want you to get ready for the final twist, because that nice, clean line we just drew in the sand, it's about to disappear completely. So let's circle all the way back to the beginning. What about a super simple statement of fact? Like, the cat is on the mat. Surely that's just a description of the world. It's either true or it's false, and that's it. Right?
Well, have a look at this sentence. All of John's children are bald. Now, is that statement true or false if John doesn't have any children? It feels kind of weird to call it either one, doesn't it? The statement sort of misfires because a basic condition for it to even make sense, the fact that John has children, isn't met. It's trying to describe something that doesn't even exist. And this leads us to Austin's ultimate insight. He realized that even just stating a fact is a kind of performance. It's the speech act of asserting something or describing something, and just like any other performance, it has rules for success or failure. And just like that, poof, the entire distinction between saying something and doing something completely collapses. To say anything at all is to do something.
So why does any of this matter? I mean, who cares? Well, this isn't just some abstract philosophical game. This is about the very real power that you have and that you use every single day.
If you take only one thing away from all this, let it be this. Every time you speak, you are performing an action. You're not just a passive observer describing the world as it goes by. You are an active participant, and you are shaping your social reality with every single thing you say. Just think about the incredible power in that. With your words, you don't just talk, you create promises. You forge apologies. You issue warnings. You are building relationships, you're creating obligations, and you are defining the very world that you and everyone around you lives in. Your language isn't just a mirror reflecting the world. It's a hammer for building it. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. Now that you know that every word you speak is an action and that every sentence you utter helps to build a reality, what kind of world are you choosing to create? Thanks for watching.